Hello. How are you? Josh Allen, Mike B. Don't get your hopes up.
Hello. How are you?
Hello.
I'm not sure what we're doing.
I have no idea what's happening right now. Hello, Internet, and welcome to Don't Get Your Hopes Up, the show where I don't even know what we do every week. Like, I just blank this out. It's
talk.
like an hour and a half of my life that I never get back.
Yeah, we talk.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much the only
Yes.
rules.
This is why it's called Don't Get Your Hopes Up, because if you're expecting something amazing, well, the warning's in the title.
There you go.
Okay, so we do have
Wait, where's the
several
transition?
topics. Oh, speaking of not getting your hopes up.
Oh, the worst transition ever.
Oh, it's sad.
It is. No, of course, it is definitely sad.
It's very sad.
I just didn't see that coming until we said.
Well, it was literally the last thing I had just said,
I
and there was
know.
like no place else that I could go
I
with that
know,
one.
you're trapped.
So, Carbine laid off like 60 people,
Oh God.
which
damn.
I think a lot of people saw coming with how Wildstar's release has gone, and the fact that they're owned by NCSoft. Like, yeah, it's super sad. I think a lot of people sort of were expecting, when are the Carbine layoffs gonna happen? When are the Carbine layoffs gonna happen? And like, I'm sure that the people that were actually at Carbine were like preparing for this.
Yeah.
But it's still super shitty whenever anybody gets laid off, especially in the game development industry, because like, games are good and I like games, and I don't want game developers to stop being game developers. I want them to keep being game developers so they can make more games.
Yeah, it's definitely become a pretty common thing in the games industry. You hire a bunch of people to do a lot of work, and then when that work stops, then you reduce. There's obviously a reduction in staff, and it's just a cycle that happens every single time. If you're a game developer and you're looking to get hired by any random dev, obviously there are a few exceptions, I think, which I'm sure Laura would be happy to point out. But for the most part, you should expect to, after while the game is getting there and wrapping up. I mean, I personally know of a couple people that left early because they knew it was going to happen and they went to pursue other interests, which I think is totally smart. I think that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Treat yourself like a consultant.
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of times in the gaming industry, like you'll talk to people like, oh, what's good career advice for working my way up in the gaming industry, and it usually is jump around between companies a bunch.
Yep.
Because in a lot of different companies, like it's harder to work up to a higher position in that company than it is to find a higher position somewhere else. And oftentimes you can be like, oh, I worked at Humble Junk for a while. I don't know.
Right.
I worked at Wiener Farts game development company for a while, and I had this title there, and then they hear your title and they're like, oh, that sounds like a good title. How'd you like to be our new CEO of Wiener Farting? And then I don't know why this is the phrase that came to mind. This is terrible. I'm really bad at this.
Yeah, I mean, we are going to talk about YouPorn later, so I guess
No, that's true. Yeah.
that'd been a great transition.
Yeah, speaking of Wiener Fart. No. But yeah, like
it's one of those things that obviously for those of us who follow the games industry or read any gaming related news, we see this stuff all the time to the point to where we expect it. So when it happens, it's like, yeah, we knew it was coming. And we expect the people that work there to also anticipate it. Obviously, not all of them do. They think that it's going to last forever. And so, that makes it...
Or they expect that it's coming, but they don't think it will happen to them, sort of thing.
Yes, yeah, exactly. But here's the thing. You brought up a really good point. Giving advice to people who want to work in the game industry, it's like, if you could just be ready to move from company to company, like that's also the way that you move up in companies a lot of times. I did that, actually. When I worked at CompUSA, I left the company twice in 3 years because I would leave... they eliminated my position once, and right, is that what it was? Yeah, I think I can't remember if I left or if they eliminated the position. But then a week later, I'm back with a different position, and then I left again, and then I came back again. I worked in Circuit City for like a week, and then I came back, and I was like, was I just meant to do that for like recon? Is that what that was? But the thing is, every time I came back, I made a lot more money, and I was moved up in position. Because in a company, most companies, like large companies, they're only allowed to give you a certain percentage increase, even if you're moving up to another position.
Yeah.
And so it's like you could go from an $18,000 a year job, as a retail associate, into an assistant sales manager, and if you go direct, you're gonna make $20,000. But I left and came back, and I was making like $25,000. But that's a huge difference, And so that's the way you move up in any industry, it seems like.
Yeah, and a lot of it, like, it is kind of weird how it works out, but a lot of it has to do with, like, when you apply for a position, people ask what your current salary is, and they want to beat that by a large margin. Because they're like, okay, this is how much this person is going to be expecting. If we want to have this person, then we need to pay them a lot more than they're currently making to make the transition make more sense. Whereas if you're already in the company, then those can be like, well, okay, we'll just pay them another couple bucks a month or a couple bucks an hour, and it'll work out.
Yeah. I'll just say we try not to do that at ZAM. Like, we try to pay people what we feel they're worth. Because having them leave and come back is a huge pain in the ass.
Yeah.
But yes, absolutely.
And Blizzard is fortunately a company that's very similar in that they will regularly or semi-regularly, at least twice since I've been at Blizzard, I will hear of, like, it's this department's turn, and they'll go through, and that department will do, like, our HR department will go out and find out what people in other industries or in other companies are making for the same position or similar positions, and then adjust salaries based on that. So it's good. It's not always perfect. But, like, the other thing about Blizzard, though, is that Blizzard is not one of those companies that when a game is finished, you're done. Like, when Diablo 3 released, we didn't immediately lay off the Diablo 3 development team, right? Like, they went to work on an expansion.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And even
or like the PS4 version or something. Like, there was always something going on with Diablo.
Yeah. And, like, even when, when a title is done, like, quote unquote air quotes, when a title is done, people will move to another team, or those teams will start up something new. Like, this is before my time at Blizzard, but when Warcraft 3 released and the Frozen Throne released, and they were like, right, okay, we now released the final Warcraft 3 expansion. There was only the one, but this is the Warcraft 3 expansion. This is the only expansion we're going to release for Warcraft 3. They then took a bunch of those guys and moved them over to the World of Warcraft development team, which was a product that was already under development. Yeah. And some of them that were remaining started working on StarCraft 2. And sure, it, like, then took a long time for StarCraft 2 to actually release, but that's just kind of how Blizzard is. We'll keep teams of 10 people working on something for ages, and then eventually Hearthstone comes out, and oh my god, it's super successful.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This game's been. It's funny when you talk about games that have been in quote unquote development hell for like a decade, and it's like, well, they worked on a decade, but there was like 3 guys working on it for the majority of that, because they were just that team that just worked on it aside from everyone else.
Well, that's certainly an advantage that Blizzard has over a lot of other game developers, especially a company like Carbine that like didn't really have. In fact, I think Wildstar was their first release.
Yeah, Wildstar's first release.
Yeah. Like a company like Carbine doesn't have 3 other titles that's out there and going to the point where they can justify, okay, we're going to take these 10, 15 people and have them work on Hearthstone this whole time. And they're not making any money for the company that entire time. But we've got these other games that are out there, so we can support this, so that eventually when they're done with this, we have this awesome product that's like got that Blizzard polish on it and everything, and can then like pay all of that back, which could then potentially make room for somebody else to do the same sort of thing. Like Heroes of the Storm is now in development. Yep. I guess like you could potentially try to make an argument that Heroes of the Storm could be profitable at the moment, because you can technically buy things on the store at the moment, but there just aren't enough people in there. in the tech alpha at the moment for that to be the case. I wouldn't imagine. I haven't seen the numbers myself, but I would not imagine that there's enough people in there for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, technical alpha. It's not supposed to be like a massive horde of people.
Exactly. Like the game hasn't been released, so yeah.
Another good example of a good way of doing this, of managing kind of the development process and kind of having like a fail-safe, is with, Bungie, and I only know this because I follow Marathon, right? One of my favorite games growing up. But Bungie had said that they had set aside, I guess based on the game's popularity, like I think they started like 5% or something, and if the game like reaches a certain point in sales or whatever, then they'll dedicate more team to that, or more people to the Marathon team to developing that game, and making I don't know if they're making a new version, or if they're gonna revamp the old one or whatever. Because the story in the old one was perfectly fine and it still works today. They could just redo the whole thing, and I think 20 years out, it's okay to have a remastered HD version, or whatever they want to call it, of Marathon. But that's I think that's pretty smart. Like, to any company that is getting some kind of funding, to not throw all the funding into a single game, and to have some kind of fail safe. Now, I've never run a company, myself, but I could imagine that if you're getting millions of dollars of funding, then take a small portion of it, and I'm sure that the people funding you probably wouldn't mind, because you're basically saying, I'm gonna take this 5% and devote it to another property. In the event that something goes wrong here, I could probably still make some money on this little thing over here.
Yeah, maybe.
But I'm looking forward to Marathon HD. But it's smart to take a little bit of money and kind of trickle it over to the side to create a fallback of some sort.
Yeah, definitely. And like just the nature of game development, and obviously it takes a lot of employees. Like if you need every single employee working on a given game, then it gets a lot more difficult to actually do that. Because now you're talking about hiring people to make a different game, and does that really work with the way that your company's like ecosystem works and all that? It gets messy from there. But one of the huge advantages of it that's actually kind of similar in a way to what Blizzard does, which is like just making sure that we've always got multiple things in the pipe.
Yes.
And like obviously we've got Heroes of the Storm in production. We've got Hearthstone that's like just released. We've got the Warlords of Draenor coming out and everything. Like there's so much stuff.
And I'm sure you guys are already working on the next patch, next major content patch.
Next major content patch and next expansion, and those are both things that we've actually confirmed too. Like,
yeah, exactly. So it's
the thing, like, well, and this is even something that you can look at the WoW development team as something, as someone else is doing this too. Because the point that I was meandering my way around to there is that just the nature of game development, you often need different people at different points of development of the game. So, like for example, our concept artists for Warlords of Draenor were done months ago, ages ago. Like, sure, there's going to be some pieces that still need to be done for like, okay, can we get an updated concept of what this boss might look like or something like that. I'm sure that stuff is probably done already. If it isn't, it's very close. But like those people can then go and say, like, okay, well now we'll start thinking about what the next expansion is going to be. We'll start doodling for the next expansion or the one after it or something like that. The story developers, like sure, there's going to be quests and stuff that have to be made still for.
Oh man, that's a full-time job.
Yeah, but like the people that are just sort of like deciding what, like the story of Warlords of Draenor has already been decided at this point.
Yeah.
It can be tweaked for sure. Like it's not like final, this is done, or no matter what, this is what's going to happen. Like there can be changes that are made, but for the most part, it's pretty like the major story points are figured out. Those people can start working on the next expansion. And the same thing happens if you're dealing with multiple games. Like when let's see, what's a good example for this here. I'm trying to think of a good example for it off the top of my head.
Deal with multiple games?
Yeah, dealing with multiple games. I'm trying to come up with a good example of it inside Blizzard, but sort of failing at the moment just because I don't have enough.
Well, there's all those games you can't talk about. You know what I'm saying?
But Okay, here's an example that I can give. We were working on Titan.
Okay.
Titan got canceled.
Yeah.
We didn't then fire all those people. We moved them to different development teams. The same sort of, it works in the other direction as well. Like Team A, like whenever they get around to releasing like the last StarCraft expansion, people on that team are going to move on to other titles. They'll move over to I don't know, Heroes of the Storm or something. And that's just, when you have enough people to do that, it's a major advantage for a company. And especially a company with as deep of pockets as someone like NCSoft. Like, sure, I don't know. So a big part of the discussion that's come up in result of all these Carbine layoffs is this is just what the MMO industry is like. And I really don't think it needs to be that way. Like, from my perspective, NCSoft has a very fire and forget approach to their MMOs that they come out with. They will release something, they'll support it for a little while, and then they'll go, right, we need to come out with a new one for when people inevitably lose interest in this one because we're not supporting it anymore.
Right.
And I just think that that's a bad way to approach things. And I think it's fair to say that, seeing as how, like, that's the opposite of what Blizzard did with World of Warcraft, and WoW is still going strong 10 years later.
But
I don't know.
We've kind of proven that, and I know that we've talked about this at some point in the past. Once a game fails, for the most part, they're not getting those people back. So
yeah, for sure.
And I'm sorry, I shouldn't say fail. Once people lose interest in a game, they're gone. Like, it is really, really, really hard to get those people back, no matter what you do. So you could develop content for it, but you might get back 5%, and then you end up just throwing away money. And so it's like, what are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to, from a business perspective, it's like, that sounds silly. And honestly, from a player perspective, it's like, I'm going to get into this game, I'll just do content, and there's nobody here.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Rift. Like, Rift doesn't have 7 million people playing the game. But they've released a huge expansion and obviously a ton of content, and they have another expansion actually coming up, I think. And it's just like they're still putting money and content out for the game. Again, I don't know how many people are playing it. I have no idea, but I know it's not 7 million people. So
right, but Tryon is also, I think, a good example of the other side of they didn't necessarily. I think there were some layoffs at Tryon, but it was ages ago, and since then they've just been like, well, now we'll be working on Trove, we'll be working on whatever else it is Tryon is doing. I don't remember exactly what their titles are. They've got three or four of them.
AA Arcade.
Yeah, Arcade. So they went over to that instead of laying all those people off. Like, it would have made sense, even in NCSoft's model of an MMO releases, and then it dwindles down, and then we get rid of it, or we fire a whole bunch of people, or lay off a whole bunch of people. Like, even in that model, it still makes sense to take those people who are obviously MMO developers that have done something that you got a decent amount of money out of, and say, right, now work on a new one, or something like that. Like,
yeah, I don't know. It's kind of tough. I mean, I gotta say, I don't necessarily agree about the NCSoft specifically. I've seen it happen. Like, you're right, I've seen it happen. I can't agree that NCSoft has been like, they have so many games. I think it's easy to say that they fire and forget because they have so many games. But you got to think, like, they still have, we have Guild Wars 2. Ion still has people playing it. They still have content. And it's not just in the States. And, maybe in the States, things aren't quite as, successful, especially like Blade and Soul. Beautiful looking game. Didn't really do anything here. For whatever reason, I have no idea, but it's just not here when we thought it would be. Right. But then you look at games that they close. City of Heroes. City of Heroes was up for a long time.
Yeah, that's true.
And so it's like, it's tough. I think because they have so many games, and because they trim the fat, I guess, whenever they need to, which is a terrible way of putting it, but just in the greater scheme, that's kind of what it looks like. It's like, well, here's a game that nobody's playing. It's like, oh, well, close it down, which sucks. But they have so many games that it happens. Like, SOE closed down SWG. And so it was like they were really beat up about that. But SOE's, it was a company at the time when they closed that with like, what, 3 games?
Yeah.
You know, or sorry, well, more than that, of course, but still, like, you know, if you said SOE, you don't always think Free Roam's right off the bat. You think, EQ and Planetside. And at the time, SWG was one of their, pretty big and well-known games. So, but they didn't have like 10 games or 12 games that we know of in the States that NCSoft has.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, NCSoft is also not really the developer in this situation either. They're just the people that sign the checks, really. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure they have input on stuff, but like their position is much more like, well, we're going to give you a bunch of money to create us a game, and you made us a game. Cool, thank you. We're going to stop giving you money now, which I guess I can see from that perspective why that would make sense. Mm-hmm. It just, to me, seems like the sort of thing that they should say, okay, we'll keep giving you this money, but now you have to come up with something new for us to keep giving you that money. And maybe that's what happened. Maybe NCSoft approached Carbine and they couldn't come up with something. I don't know.
Yeah. And then sometimes you have to look at some of these things and be like, I mean, like Tabula Rasa. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, you have to look at it and be like, I would have closed that shit down.
Yeah.
like sometimes it's just like, yes, you made the right decision.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Wildstar is still salvageable. Like, I'm not playing it. I didn't really play it super far. I just got super overwhelmed in Wildstar. Like, there was just too much, and I just was like, I just want to punch things. I don't want to have to figure out what the amp is, and why do I have like 17 quests for the same little area with this crappy little quest? Like, I think it's a salvageable game, and I actually know people that still work at Carbine that made it through the layoffs.
Yeah.
And like from talking to them about it, like it's something that I still feel that the game has actually a good chance of being one that sticks around for a while. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's a tabula rasa, basically.
Oh yeah, definitely not. No way.
But yeah,
do you think that they could do like enough of a shift to? I mean, like probably one of the best examples of like there's actually 2 really good examples I think of games that came out, were panned across the reviews or whatever, like that didn't do well, and then really got their shit together and fixed enough stuff to bring people back. The first one I think is probably Diablo 2, which I know we're talking about MMOs, but I do think that we could drag Diablo into this. Diablo 2 was a very well-known title that came, 3. Very well-known title that came out and was not what 2.0 was. What would eventually be. And then Final Fantasy 14. That's a game that came out. Yeah, and they got their shit together. They actually destroyed the world and the lore. And then they reinvented the entire game. Like that. It's possible to do, but you've probably played more Wildstar than I have. Like, is it something that you think could happen? Because it's such a personality of that game is just so good.
Yeah, it has a ton of personality. It's a very pretty game. I just think it needed like my issue with Wildstar was just entirely that it felt like they had too many good ideas, and they tried to implement all of them, and there's a point where too much good stuff is just too much. So, like, the crafting system was cool if there weren't 400 other... Like, if crafting was the complicated mechanic in the game and everything else was relatively simple, then cool. But everything in that game was as complicated as the crafting. And there's, like, 23 different... Like, it was... I can't even speak to it in super, like... knowledgeable terms, just because I was so turned off by how complicated everything even just appeared to me. Maybe it's purely a UI issue. Maybe everything is really, really simple, and the UI just presents things in a way that I felt like it was super complicated, so I didn't want to look into it. But it was definitely like I can remember very key moments, like one of them being the crafting. Like, you get to this one town, and they're like, oh, now it's time to start crafting. Here's a bunch of quests for crafting. And I dicked around with that for a while. And eventually I went, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what the benefit of anything that I'm doing is. I guess I'm making stuff. That seems cool. I don't really understand this system. I don't know if this is a system that I need to be leveling right now, or if it's something I should come back and do later. Like, I didn't know if the system was like I was even ever going to be interested in it, and so on. And like the amp system that they had as well, like they already had the limited action set thing. They already had the abilities that you had to buy, so that like they were actually kind of expensive at low level. And then they also threw this like weird passive talent sort of system on top of it that just really didn't feel like it needed to be there. And there was a lot of complexity for the sake of complexity, it felt like. And stuff like having 17 quests in the same location with a pretty crappy quest tracker and just too much to do so that I can't actually keep track of what's going on. Like in WoW as an example, you'll be questing and you'll get like 3 or 4 quests for the same area, which are something along lines of kill this guy, pick up these 3 things, save these 10 prisoners, kill 10 ogres, stuff like that.
Sure.
And like this is all stuff that sort of makes sense, and it's like it's very cohesive. Do all of this stuff while you're here, but it's like even those 4 quests, it feels like one thing. Like you've got to go in here. Your end goal is to disrupt the ogres or something, save their prisoners, kill the bad guy, and it all just sort of happens.
It's all in the same spot. Yeah, that makes sense. And then when you turn those in,
and then when you turn those in, you get several more quests for a different area.
Mm-hmm.
In Wildstar, the problem I was having was occasionally you would finish your quest, you would turn them in, and then they would send you back to exactly where you just were to do another quest, which is like, why didn't you tell me this before? If you really needed the head of this thing, I could have picked it up while I was there.
I was there, yes.
And then there was one point, I don't remember the name of the area. It was still relatively early in like I want to call it like the first like real zone for the Dominion side, or whatever it was called, the quote unquote bad guys side. And I had like over 10 quests that were all in the same area, and it was like burn this thing, look for these parts, kill these guys, kill these guys, kill these different guys, and like all these different quests that could have been 4 quests, but like it just loaded up my quest log so much that I just could not keep track of what I was even supposed to be doing there. Like, am I supposed to try and work my way around this guy? Do I need to kill him? Can I skip this guy? Oh, is there a thing over there that I need? Have I done everything in this little area that I'm in? And the way that their quest tracker works, which was you can click on a quest and you get an arrow that kind of points in the direction, sort of, just was not. It was super, super frustrating. And I was like sitting there like working on this I was in that area for probably half an hour. And I'm still working on these quests. I'm still finding more crap that I haven't done yet because I didn't realize I needed to do it. And I just eventually went, you know what? This is not fun. I'm not having fun. I'm going to stop playing this game now. But that's fixable. That's something that they can go in and say, all right, well, we will remove 6 of these quests, bump up the XP rewards on the other ones, and done. Like, that takes 20 minutes. I don't know.
So there's... They used and I guess overused the standard questing system, whereas other games have found ways to kind of hide it a little bit or kind of give you the illusion that you're not really doing these things. Guild Wars 2, probably a good example of that. You have like your standard you have like your story quest, and you have like maybe a side quest, and then you have like the renown quests, which is like you're just in an area, do this thing. And because they all kind of had different functions and how they worked, some of them were passive, some of them were, you actually had to go to an area in order to experience it at a certain time. And then others would come to you, right? And so it was just like that really gave the illusion that you weren't doing the same thing as you're describing because it was happening a little bit more dynamically and in layers. Destiny, whoops, I'm talking about Destiny now. No, but Destiny is another, I think, a pretty good example of finding a way to present the illusion of different content in a sense. Think about when you're doing a mission and then a public event shows up. Okay, so there's a dynamic event that's happened. Guess what? I also have a list of bounties that I've been working on, and that's just passively happening as I run around and melee things or not dying from 20 things that I'm killing. And these things, so it's like that's like three different things that you could do that all at the same time, that all have different functions, but you're still accomplishing something by doing stuff. Whereas it sounds like the way you're describing Wildstar, it's like everything was in the same spot. It was the quest log, and it was just a chore list. And
yeah, exactly. It definitely felt to me like a chore list. And it was the sort of chore list that the way it's presented to you, you keep finding crap on it that you haven't picked up yet. So you end up, like, sure, all of these chores can be like, it's like if you had a shopping list. So you go to the grocery store, you go to Albertsons or something, and you're wandering around in this grocery store, and you're like, okay, I've got this list of 7 things that I need, and you start picking up those 7 things, and then you realize you've got 12 more lists of 3 to 5 things that you need, and all of these lists are jumbled together, and like,
oh man,
like, okay, I need, like, milk is on one of them, eggs is on another, bread is on another one entirely, and so you're going back and forth and running circles around the... You end up making, like, 4 rounds in the actual grocery store just to get everything, because you keep finding stuff that's on the other side of the store that you didn't do while you didn't grab while you were there, because it wasn't, like, immediately apparent to you.
Yeah.
It was just frustrating to me. And that wasn't even counting stuff like the path quests and stuff, which I just eventually just completely ignored, because I was like, I cannot deal with this. This is too much.
Yeah. Ugh, man, that sucks.
Yeah, I mean, I really, really, really wanted Wildstar to be a game that I would play, and I wanted it to be my second MMO, like the one that I'm regardless of the fact that
this says a lot. This says a
Blizzard.
lot from somebody who plays WoW all the time.
Yeah, like, regardless of the fact that I'm a Blizzard employee and I'm likely, like, I work on the WoW community team, I'm obviously going to play WoW. I still just love playing WoW, and I'm not likely to stop liking WoW at any point. It's just built into my brain at this point. So the idea
it means a lot.
Yeah, the idea of switching from WoW to Wildstar is just preposterous. But the idea of, well, this is an MMO that I play in between, like, instead of rolling my 12th alt in WoW, I will instead play Wildstar for a little while. Like, that's something that I can totally do. I have no issue personally with paying multiple subscription fees. Like, this isn't a problem that I have at all. I did it for a long time with Rift. I'm totally fine with that. I really wanted Wildstar to be my second MMO, and the problem that I ran into with it. And honestly, I think this is... I'm pulling myself on several tangents all at once.
Yeah, it's okay.
The problem that I have with it is
let it out.
The game is so complicated that I can't... It's not like taking a break from WoW to play something else. Like, WoW was taking a break from Wildstar, and I don't want to have to take a break from a second MMO. Mm-hmm. Like, the second MMO is supposed to be the break. It's supposed to be the game that I go, whew, okay, I've been raiding, I've capped my conquest points for the week, finished the raid, done everything on my main character in WoW that I need to do for this particular moment in time. I've done my dailies and stuff like that. I'm going to kick back in Wildstar for a little bit, where I can care a little bit less about everything that's going on. So, like, you're taking one game super seriously and the other game kind of casually. And Wildstar really wanted to be taken really, really super seriously. And that was just not something that I was willing to do. And I think that's sort of an issue that a lot of MMOs have fallen into, is that, like, the MMO player base right now is people that have either currently playing WoW or have played WoW. Like, there's not a lot of people that are brand new to World of Warcraft anymore. And that's why, like, we have things like in Warlords of Draenor, there's the level 90 character boost, so that you can say, okay, well, yes, you've missed a couple of expansions, but you did play for a while in Burning Crusade or something. You kind of know the real basics of how the game works. Let's bring you up to speed so you can get back in and play with your friends and so on, instead of feeling like, if I'm going to come back to WoW, I'm going to grind for ages to get, like, I'm going to have to level for ages to get up to where all the real content is. Mm-hmm. I made finger quotes when I said real content, by the way, but nobody could see that. I think that other MMOs sort of need to be able to fall into that sense of, okay, maybe our long-term goal is that people stop playing WoW and they play our game instead. But you need to hook them in with the, like, you can do this and also something else. Like, I don't think coming out of the gate with quit your main MMO, even if it's not WoW, quit, I don't know, Rift, or quit Star Wars or whatever, quit Guild Wars and play Wildstar instead. I just don't think that works.
Yeah.
I think that's at the very least, it's very, very risky. And in Wildstar's case, I don't think the risk paid off. Now, granted, I did not play Wildstar to a super high level. It's entirely possible that at some point the game opens up and becomes amazing, but that, like, I'd been told that several times. Like, oh, no. At level 8, the game really opens up and becomes amazing. I'm like, okay, well, now there's another system for me to keep track of. Like, I think the fact that I was feeling overwhelmed at, like, level 10, when there was still several systems that I hadn't even unlocked yet, like, that's the problem right there.
So hopefully we get a 2.0. Like, because it's honestly, I've heard your frustrations elsewhere. I've played it enough to see what you're talking about. Like, I know what you're saying. Yeah, I didn't play it to the extent to where I got to any notable level. Not even for like a BFF report that, you know, it's like, no, I did not play that much. But I've already seen some of the issues that you've already outlined, and it's like this sounds like stuff that could be remedied.
Yeah, for sure.
Because this isn't like, these aren't big things. I mean, obviously questing is a big thing, but there are ways of grouping things or eliminating things. Or even reclassifying things. Find ways for things to maybe trigger whenever you shoot something. You know, it's like, you shot this dude, kill like 10 more of them, you get a prize.
That's another thing that they had that I actually started to get frustrated at, because I would have my list of 14 quests to finish in this one little area, and then I would kill something, and it would pop up with you've got 5 minutes to kill 20 more of these. Go. Yeah,
but that
didn't
only
need
works.
Another thing to do.
Yes, exactly. That only works when you don't already have a laundry list. That's the big thing. And so this is totally a fixable thing. I mean,
for sure.
For fuck's sake, dude, like, Blizzard changed the way loot works in a game about loot.
Yeah.
Like, they entirely shifted it around. So yes, it is entirely possible to fix these problems with Wildstar.
Yeah, and like, I would say that the changes that need to happen to Wildstar to make me really, really love that game are less impactful than the changes happening in Warlords of Draenor to World of Warcraft. Like, they took people that were doing 1 million damage with one ability, and now it does like 10k. Like, that's a big drop, and that's they took away a whole ton of people's abilities. Well, not a whole ton, but they took away a bunch of people's. In some classes, they took away quite a few. Yeah, I guess it's different per class. I've been playing my monk lately, which only lost like a couple things, but because I didn't have much to begin with because they were a new class. But yeah, like, there's some pretty massive changes to World of Warcraft in Warlords of Draenor, and it seems to be working out. Like, we posted a pretty big increase in sub numbers recently. Of people coming back to the game in preparation for Warlords.
That's just in preparation too.
And that's just in prep. I mean, that always happens too. It's like, it shouldn't come as a major surprise or anything. And I think Mike Morhaime even said as much in the what was it, like a press release or something that comes out? I don't remember. But it's like, this is something that, like, our investors would not have been surprised by, because, like, oh yeah, an expansion is going to come out, that means sub numbers are going to come up. It's happened before. But like, just anecdotally, the number of people that I know, like, I have a raid team now that I'm organizing. That's a bunch of people that I have not seen in World of Warcraft since the Burning Crusade. Like, I used to play with them in Classic. They played BC for a little while and quit, and now they're like, this game, this is what I wanted out of World of Warcraft all along. And I'm like, yay, doing good things.
For people in BC, this has got to almost be, well, no, because there's a lot of spelled abilities there that were kind of silly.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, at least the damage will be about the same, and the stats will be about the same.
Well, the thing about coming from BC to Warlords of Draenor is mostly that there's just a ton of new features that make a lot of things way more convenient.
Yeah.
That haven't been added necessarily in Warlords of Draenor even, but things like LFR exist now. So you can actually do the raids. It's just, it's so off-putting in Mists of Pandaria to say, well, I haven't played since Burning Crusade. I don't really want to have to level all the way through 2 expansions worth of content, 3 expansions worth of content to get into the raids, which is where the boost comes in. So, yeah. But yeah, I totally think Wildstar is fixable. I think, honestly, they just need in terms of hype, it might take an expansion at this point. but like they could totally fix it. They could be like, oh, it's Wildstar 2.0, like you were saying, and we've cut all of this crap. We've simplified these things dramatically, and
here's the thing.
I'm gonna rant about this for ages.
Yeah, forever. The thing is, like, they are the company that could totally do it better than other companies that have done it, because everybody knows that Wildstar has like this really great personality. So like, any new video that comes out from Wildstar, I will watch it.
Yeah, totally.
So if they have a new video that comes out with that machinima style that they do, with that personality and that character, they could tell me about all this cool shit they have coming in, and that's the best way to deliver that stuff, to deliver that content, or those new features and everything. So it's like a company that maybe does not communicate very well, like for example, Squeenix, with the first Final Fantasy, their communication was not that great. That was one of the biggest complaints about the game. One of the complaints about the game. And Wildstar doesn't have that problem. They don't have that problem at all. They talk to their people all the time, like through these videos.
Definitely. Yeah. Yep, I completely agree. Speaking of videos.
Yeah.
You put up a video on your channel a few days ago that I have to ask you about, because because it had a little something in it, you know.
Something.
Yeah. What you doing?
I know. Nobody knows. But
not even me.
Not even you, exactly. Like, so here's what's going on. You probably know, so it was Mary and Daniel, also known as the Fangirl and the Gaming Raptor.
Right.
They came up with the idea that, hey, we can handle all the filming, because that was a really difficult part. They'll do the filming and editing of the a Darnell show, obviously not Blizz Blues, but of a Darnell something, and I can handle, assist with some of the writing, because Daniel's gonna handle most of it. The Gaming Raptor's gonna handle most of it, and also just kind of help produce it and obviously provide the character.
Right.
It's something that we
They're
just
gonna bring in like Darnell starring Jeff Goldblum. It's like yeah.
No. So it's like, these are people that I know can handle. I wouldn't trust this with like anybody else, because Mary, as a fangirl, she was there. She actually did a lot of support whenever I was filming Blizz Blues, because there was a lot of stuff that I could not do without her.
Yeah, I was gonna say, didn't she help a lot with like the multiple character shots and stuff?
Yeah, multiple character shots. Any scene where Darnell died, it was her on her hunter after she basically cloned me,
Oh.
And she would just die, and the animation would stick. And so that's the thing. It's like she has access to all of these toys, like everything you could possibly think of, and we use them all the time. And so yeah, she played a big part in helping make Blizz Blues a success. Obviously uncredited, because there was no credits for it. But
it's hard to be credited when there's no credits.
And the Game Raptor, he was there for a number of things as well. And he's watched all the shows. He's went and binged all the shows before, like kind of presenting this project idea to me, and I think it's cool. And it's like I'm not gonna retire the character or anything. Like, the character is still alive in my brain. It's my inner monologue in a sense. But it's, I'm interested to see what happens. Like that thing that we did, like I want to do shorts, like not like 5-minute videos like Blizz Blues was, which I mean, sure, that might happen, but I want to do just like short stuff. Like there's stuff that comes out that it's like, and this happened with Blizz Blues, I would be like, oh man, that is hilarious. Unfortunately, that is like a 1-minute joke. And I will do that 1-minute joke, and then I'll try to pad it with a whole bunch of other stuff, which there might be funny stuff elsewhere, but still, I could have just had a 1-minute video and it'd been fine.
Yeah. You could definitely make a 1-minute joke about frog farming right now.
Yeah, see, it's like it's little stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I did that one little teaser, which is basically Darnell walking out of a cloud. You know what that cloud is? This is the shit, huh?
No, I don't.
So this is the kind of stuff that like I kind of feel like, oh cool, I get to pass on this knowledge, right? But so there's a mount that is basically a flying disc, and there's a cloud underneath it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so what Mary did was she stacked a whole bunch of growth buffs or whatever, like by a pot and then like a transmog or a character shifter thing, whatever. And she's able to make her character huge, which in turn made the mount huge, which obviously made the cloud massive. And then Daniel made another character that looks exactly like Darnell. So he actually leveled a character to 90 that looks exactly like him. And all I did was I just stood there with the ornate spyglass and looked through it, which gave it that nice tight depth right there. Yeah. And then he walks through underneath. All it is, he says, we're basically in the middle of Orgrimmar, obviously, because a fucking mage shows up, standing next to a mailbox, and here he comes walking through. And then a mage goes to check the mail. Like a level 90 mage coming all the way out to where we were to check the mail with this stupid elemental there. It's just like, God, go back. We have to do it again. But yeah, it's just little stuff. Obviously, that's a little bit, fourth wall, but like there's a lot of stuff that's really easy to do in short bursts. And I want to capture some of that because I think it's funny.
Yeah, for sure. And like the fourth wall side of the Darnell shows was always like a big part of it. Like he knows he's a World of Warcraft character. He knows that he's being filmed. Like, yeah.
Yeah. I was watching an episode. So the beauty of the Darnell character is I don't remember what the fuck I said like right after recording it. So it's like I could watch back shows and I don't remember what I'm gonna say or what what the character is gonna say, and so I get to enjoy it just like anybody else. And I was watching this episode. It was like a doll going crazy or something like that, and there was a scene where one of these like oracle-looking things, I can't remember what they're called, but it was in Outlands, says like saying something to him, and he says like, "Are you a god?" And Darnell's like, and then he turns, and the camera shifts to like this big Tauren with Winston as a nameplate, and he's all like, and he points at him, he's all, yeah, and then Darnell turns and goes, yes. It was like little stuff like that was like so fun to film and just squeeze in, just like throw it in there. It's like, is it funny? Is it kind of funny? Just fucking throw it in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I am looking forward to doing little bits and pieces like that here. I don't know if it's gonna be on schedule or anything, but I just want to do it.
Yeah. Well, and it's like the sort of thing that can be totally cool for, like, you don't necessarily have to come in with a big long storyline, because I know that like part of when you were doing Blizz Blues, it was like, okay, there hasn't been any news for like 2 months. How do I continue to put out a weekly show about this? And like it doesn't even have to be. It could just be like, well, something happened. I want to talk about it. Here's a Darnell episode, sort of thing.
Pretty much.
Yes. Darnell farms frogs. Are you aware of this frog farming thing that's going on right now?
I've heard. I think I've heard through Mary bitching about it like on the side or something, and I didn't really catch what it was. But apparently it is some kind of issue.
So several changes happened in in patch 6.0. One of which is that the item upgrades, which is like on raid gear, you can upgrade it. Siege of Orgrimmar raid gear, you can upgrade 4 times, and it just increases the item level of it. And it costs. It was changed. It used to cost Valor points. Valor was removed, so now it costs Lesser Charms of Good Fortune instead. So the Catch Me Lesser Charms thing costs those. So all of a sudden people have like, oh, I can upgrade all of this gear. Before I wasn't really doing it because it cost Valor and that was kind of a pain to get. But now I can just go kill stuff on the Timeless Isle where they drop, and particularly there's these frogs that will always drop a Lesser Charm when they die.
Oh my god, 100% drop rate?
100% drop rate, yeah. So there's just this area that a whole bunch of these frogs spawn. And there's other things on the isle that drop them. The frogs are just the easiest and fastest to kill. On top of that, 6.0 also came out with the pre-made groups feature, so you can like list a group and say, hey, for anything. Like it's like OQ if you ever use that.
Yeah. I know. I saw it. You could like customize and put whatever you want in there.
Yeah. So if you log into World of Warcraft right now, and you go into the PvE group finder, and you look under the custom category, you will find a bajillion groups of people farming frogs. Because all you do is you get into one of these groups, you kill any frogs you find. The things will only drop if you have a regular group, so it's a maximum of 5 people in the group.
Obviously, yeah, you can have a raid doing it. Doesn't work.
If you could, that'd be ridiculous. But you have 5 people in this group, and you just run around killing frogs. And just every once in a while, you happen across a section where someone else has killed 10 frogs, and you loot. And because there's AoE looting in the game now, you just pick up 10 charms just right there, right like that. I needed, in order to fully upgrade my my warlock, I needed 1,600 charms. And I got them in like an hour. And it's so funny because you go out there and there will be 4 groups of 5 people that are all farming these frogs. There's dead frogs everywhere. Like, it's pretty amazing.
That sounds hilarious. I'm gonna write it down.
I saw there was a picture, I think it was on Reddit or something earlier, that it was just a picture of one of those frogs, and then someone had memed it. So at the top it said endgame, at the bottom it said content. It was so funny.
Oh, dude.
It's weird how cathartic it is too. Like, you just kill frogs for ages and you're like, I'm fucking frogs. Like, they deserved every bit of it.
It's too bad that raid doesn't, or that loot doesn't work like that with a raid, because that'd have been a great way to say that 40-man content is back. Like, there'd have been some great joke or meme or something. There's karma in that. Like, it'd have been like 40-man content.
Yeah.
Bam.
Oh, yeah. Shit. So, speaking of content. Wait, hang on. I can get a better one here.
Yeah, do it over.
So, speaking of things getting killed.
God damn it, yes. Go on.
Yeah. So, this guy, I have to find the article again so I can actually get his name. Spooter, yeah. Mike Malbec was his name.
Mm-hmm.
Co-creator of a game called Paranautical Activity, which I'm not super familiar with myself.
I am.
Okay.
It's a first-person, procedurally generated dungeon crawler, sort of. It's room-based, so it kind of, from the first-person perspective, you kind of felt like you were playing as like the original Legend of Zelda, where you walk into a dungeon room and you have to kill everything in order to move on to the next room. Okay. And then there's like a key room or something, or a loot room. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Fun game.
Yeah. I haven't played it, but I believe you.
Mm-hmm.
Was in quote-unquote early access on Steam. Apparently came out of early access. And this guy flipped his shit. Like, I don't... What happened? Who hurt you, Spooter? What?
So it released. So here's the perspective that he was taking. The game is out. Promote it. Get it everywhere, because it's only gonna live where it's at for like 5 minutes because of how quickly things fly off the page. Even now with the filters and everything in place, it's still, you don't get a lot of front page love in the new Steam for an indie dev. So it's one of those things where you are still beholden to that limited amount of time in order to get everything going. And so he looked at it like, it still says early access. So people are going to see it on the new releases. You're gonna go see its early access, and they're gonna be, and some people who don't buy into early access games, maybe, which who are they? I didn't know that people didn't do that. Like they are not gonna buy his game. So he felt like he was basically being shafted because of that by Steam because they didn't remove the early access tag.
Yeah.
And
there's been a pretty big outcry against early access games recently, so that's perfectly reasonable.
Yeah, and so he says in his tweets, they start off pretty reasonable. Well, I mean, the first sentence anyways. Well, no, never mind. So he posts a picture of a screenshot of the page that says early access after it's been released, and he says, "Are you fucking kidding me, Steam? We just released out of early access, and this is our front page banner." And then it says, then the next tweet, "First they forced me to delay the game because I can't release on the weekends. Now this. Steam is the most incompetent piece of fucking shit." Then the next tweet, "Fucking Steam is just fucking taking money out of my pocket, misinforming people that my game is in fucking early access." And the next tweet, "I am so fucking done dealing with fucking incompetent shits." And then the next tweet.
Yeah, it just goes and goes and goes. Well, then eventually he gets to the point like where he's like, this is now only 4 hours after like his first tweet that says, "Hey, it's out of early access. Here's a link to it on Steam." 4 hours later, says, "People frequently ask me how to get the Paranautical Activity original soundtrack. I can tell you one thing, it's definitely not available on the Pirate Bay." And then his next tweet says, "I mean, really, don't even bother trying to get the OST off Pirate Bay." And it's a link of, it's an image of him seeding it in like YouPorn or something. 4 hours he went from, "Hey, everybody, come buy my game," to, "Fuck it, take it for free." Like, okay, I understand, sir, I understand that you're upset.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that you don't like how things are happening. I don't think you understand how time works. Like, there's going to be a passage of time before issues are resolved. Maybe give longer than 4 hours. I don't know.
Yeah, we're beating up the guy a little bit here, but we're getting somewhere with it because he deserves a little bit. He deserves some of this.
Yes, definitely. Because eventually, all of this freaking out led into a tweet where he said, "I am going to kill Gabe Newell. He is going to die." And like I mean, it even feels bad to laugh at a death threat at this point because like it's a fucking death threat. Like this is not okay. But like, holy shit, dude, calm yourself. Just take a breath. Just calm down. And he did end up coming back later and posted a hell of an apology.
Yes.
Like basically just ducked out of the industry, more or less.
Yeah, he didn't dodge it. He didn't play politics with it. Like he basically flat out came out and said, "Yeah, I said that. I'm an idiot."
Yeah. Yeah. A statement I obviously didn't mean, but was regardless completely unacceptable, is what he said. And then he goes on and he's like talking about he's deeply sorry that his short-sighted, hot-tempered actions resulted in not only my own dreams and aspirations being destroyed, but those of the entire team I worked with. He goes on, he goes, "My temper and tendency to use Twitter to vent has been a consistent problem since I entered the games industry, and I just can't do it. I don't have the willpower necessary to be the face of a company. If I do continue to work in games, it'll be as an anonymous 1 of 1,000 at some shitty corporation, not the most public figure of a single-digit sized team." He sold his half of the company to the other like co-founder, gave up all of his rights, will not receive any money from the sale of Paranautical Activity or anything. He ended this with, "I won't be consulted on business decisions, and I won't have any hand in development. I'm out." Like, he's even mad at that point. Like,
yeah,
holy hell, dude.
Oh, man.
And I understand why it happens. Like, especially when you spend a ton of your time working on something, and then someone else does something dumb, even if it's a stupid, simple mistake, like, oops, we forgot to unflag this as early access when we release this game. Of the 4,000 indie titles that we release a month, this one, whoops, sorry, I forgot to hit that button when I put this one out.
Yeah, which is one of the better ones, but unfortunately, it doesn't really mean anything in the bucket of indie games that comes out.
Yeah, definitely.
Which sucks.
Yeah, and I can understand why someone who's in their mind at this point watching all of their work go down the drain over the words early access that like shouldn't be there, and he sees this and he flips his shit. I can understand that. It still is the sort of thing that, like he even says in his apology letter here, maybe not a great personality trait to have as the face of a gaming company.
Yeah, Phil Fish comes to mind when I think about this
indie
situation.
developers freaking out.
Yeah, people who should not be the face of a company, even if it is for your entertainment. It's Phil Fish was a great example of somebody who needed a filter of some sort. This guy, he's right. Like he sees it. He knows some people are just seriously, they're just not meant to be on Twitter. Or on anything that gives them a direct line of communication with their consumer base. These are artists in a sense. These are artists. They're creating things and they're putting all their love and everything into this. And some of these people are eccentric and they're not socially, adapted to like anything. And so to put in front of their face, you can say whatever you want. They're gonna be like,
okay.
Fucking, like this guy did, like every time.
You mean I could just type the word dicks and people will see it?
Exactly. Yeah. Like some people just they don't need that. That's not their thing.
Like you think about what's the skill set necessary for a top quality indie developer? Okay, well they need creativity. They need what's the word I'm looking for? Like the drive to actually like finish something. They need the follow through in that respect. Like they obviously need to be like decent at like programming and working within the like development tools and stuff like that. Skill that doesn't need to be there: social skills. You don't need to be good at chatting with people. You don't need to be the sort, especially as an indie developer that probably doesn't work with very many other, like a very small team, if a team at all.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to be able to make other people like you. You just need to make something that other people might like, that has maybe nothing to do with you as a person. So it's almost like it almost makes perfect sense that every once in a while an indie developer turns out to be like, maybe they're an indie developer because they would rather like sit in and work on a game all day than talk to people because they're not great at talking to people. Sort of thing.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, so like it's unfortunate when stuff like this happens, but it's also the sort of thing that like it's going to happen. This is mathematically going to happen almost.
Yes. Yeah, it's
still kind of funny though.
That's why I said like for your, regardless of if it's for your entertainment. But as long as people recognize that, this is just a guy who just doesn't belong on Twitter, and he's even said himself he's not the face of a company. Like he doesn't need to be. Phil Fish maybe didn't say that, but I'm pretty sure that he said that in some form or another. But
every time he pops out, says something, and then immediately goes, wait, nope, and like blocks his account again, locks down his account again.
Yeah,
exactly. That's kind of saying that. Like, wait, what am I doing? I shouldn't be talking to people.
Yes, and that's the thing. It's like we just have to understand that some people just don't. You cannot give them a microphone. You just cannot. That's not what they're made for. But damn, man, like when I saw that final tweet, Gabe will die or whatever, I was like, wow, man.
No matter how bad your social skills are, I think it should be fairly evident that death threats are never okay. It's just no, don't do this.
It's funny. I've met people like that. Like I distinctly remember a conversation with somebody where he made it. What did he say? Like, he said like he's like if you do that, I will kill you. And I was like, ha. He's like, no, I will kill you. I was like, no, you're actually joking. You're just reinforcing it.
Yeah.
And he's all like, no, I will kill you. I was like, no, you actually won't. Like it was pissing me off because it was like at the time I couldn't communicate to him that you are socially inept.
Yeah.
You're saying this to get a point across, but you don't actually literally mean you're going to kill me right now.
Yeah.
But I also don't want to egg you on.
Yeah, I'm also not going to do it because I'm not 100% confident that you don't mean you're going to kill me.
But that's the thing. It's like people, they will say things like that because they don't understand that somebody else will take it seriously or could.
Yeah, and like a lot of issues that pop up, like it's just the internet. People say stuff like, "I'm gonna kill you" all the time. Like, well, not everyone does, and not everyone comes. Like I used to play Counter-Strike a ton, and some of the shit that people said all the time in Counter-Strike, like IRC channels and stuff, was like, even by like some of it would have been harsh even compared to this thing that we're talking about here, because it's like, holy crap. But like, it's just so common in some circles that people sort of get into the mentality of, oh, this is just how people talk. It's the same sort of issue that games like League of Legends have been working really, really hard to combat, and basically any MOBA has been working really, really hard to combat, is this sort of like, once you think it's okay to say this sort of thing, it doesn't occur to you that other people might not think the same way. Like, if I join into a game of League of Legends and I immediately go, you guys are fucking noobs, you're all fucking terrible, what this fucking Sona or something like that, and just rage at people the whole time, that guy might think to himself, well, this is okay. This is how you play League of Legends. This is just how people who play League of Legends act. And to some degree, it's the case, at least in like those particular circles. There's definitely a lot of people who play League of Legends and act like that, but that still doesn't make it okay. Like, exactly. It doesn't mean that the other people in the group are going to think of it in the same way as, well, this is just how people act in League of Legends. Like, no, I'm actually hurt by this sort of thing.
Oh, man.
Gabe Newell, however, is totally fine. Probably not going to get killed by this guy.
Yeah. Yeah, wow. I mean, yeah, no. That
it is always entertaining when an indie dev blows up, the monthly indie dev blow up.
Thank you. Yes, that's what I was waiting for. That is so true.
So, speaking of blow-ups... So this was news a while ago, but we weren't doing a podcast then.
Right.
And an article actually went up on Polygon recently that was just sort of like a follow-up on this article that I was reading, and I was like, oh yeah, this happened. YouPorn, which if you're not familiar with if you may have heard of it, if you haven't heard of it, it's exactly what it sounds like.
Porn for you.
It's a porn site.
Yes.
They a couple of months ago, I don't remember exactly when it was, tweeted that they were looking for LOL, Dota 2, or Hearthstone players because they wanted to sponsor an eSports team. And everybody immediately went, what? You want a what? And they've come back from this now and said, YouPorn received hundreds of submissions from the esports community. And they're actually like, it's actually something that they're still looking to do. Like, I would have figured that this would be the sort of thing that immediately they would have recognized, okay, actually thinking about this, there is not a single tournament in existence that will allow us to advertise porn. You're not going to be walking up on stage at BlizzCon or something and be like, okay, and now it's YouPorn, I don't know, hero or something like that. No, this is not a thing that's ever going to happen.
So here's the thing, like, for some players, like, this is, like, I like Hearthstone and I like porn.
I would like to get paid to Hearthstone porn.
Let's put these things together. Like, I actually saw an image of I don't know who it was, but you know the it's like an audition type or like talent scout type video where there's like a very it's a couch, and if you see this couch, it's this specific porn series or whatever.
Right.
Like a casting couch, I think is what it is. Anyways, it's got like some popular streamer like sitting on this couch, like just sitting there.
Wow. There's some suddenly very strange connotations associated with that then. Like, why is he on the couch though?
But that's the thing. It's like the adult industry is still like such a shunned. I mean, obviously more accepted now than ever, of course.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's still, like you said, like it's not. You're not gonna see YouPorn versus Samsung. It is just not going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah. And
Samsung will pay to have them kicked off the roster.
Yeah. And I mean, they could do, like, I could see them doing something like, oh God, actually thinking about it, I was gonna say I could see them doing something like on Twitch, like maybe they're not actually a team that plays in tournaments and stuff, but like they're a bunch of streamers that all bandied together under the YouPorn banner or something. But even Twitch won't allow you to advertise porn. Like, this is not a thing that's going to. They have shirts.
Yeah, the shirts don't look that bad either. I mean, it's,
no.
It's just YouPorn. I mean, it looks like a regular team jersey. Really, is what it does.
Yeah, and I mean they're like trying to. They're calling it like Team YP. So like they're trying to maybe just say, oh no, we're just Team YP. You don't ever actually have to say porn, but that's not gonna fly.
Yeah, not with with like Yellow Pages, YP.com. Yeah.
Well, and even like it might work once, and then someone will figure out, like one of the tournament admins will figure out what's going on, and then it won't ever happen again. Like relatively recently, there was actually a in World of Warcraft, there was a tournament. It was there was a regional tournament where there was a team that was named after a boost selling site. Like, give us money and we will boost your character in arena ratings, which is heavily against the terms of service.
Yeah.
Not like, it's the sort of thing where it's okay to help your friend get a higher rating. It's not okay to help your friend get a higher rating for $100.
Yes.
Like, there's a difference there. And they had similarly just done an initial, like, they called themselves BB instead of the name of this site. And like at first, I'm trying to not say the name of the site because I work for Blizzard, and I definitely am not going to try and I'm going to try and avoid doing anything that would point people towards this site.
Right.
I'm sure people that are already familiar with the site will know what I'm talking about, but
it's a good example though.
People that aren't, like, I'm trying to. This is why I'm talking in circles at the moment, is because I'm trying to avoid actually saying the name of this thing. It was something where they originally had actually the name of the site in their team name. One of the admins of the tournament figured out what that meant and said, "Whoa, I don't think Blizzard would like this very much." And so then they turned it into an initial, and then after that they were forced to actually change their team name and not be sponsored by that particular site anymore.
Yeah,
because it's like, this is in the terms of service, in the agreement for the players' agreement says that you cannot be in any way sponsored by a list of things, including things that break the terms of service. Yeah,
exactly.
There's also a clause in there that you cannot be sponsored by, at least that covers that you cannot be sponsored by a porn site.
Really?
I would assume that there is. If not, maybe not. But it's still the sort of thing that if someone showed up at BlizzCon and was like, "Oh yeah, we're Team YouPorn now," we'd be like, "No, you're not."
There's something written there. Yeah, and
there's bound to be something in there that prevents that. I haven't gone over it with a fine-tooth comb.
Of course,
I'm sure there is.
But if not, it would be amended very quickly.
Yeah,
but it's one of those things where they're kind of in their position is definitely, they're stuck. Obviously, they're smart with going with the Team YP thing. Unfortunately, I don't know if that's necessarily, and I don't think it's necessarily enough, because while they could actually go and do their own tournament, but they wouldn't really be able to use any of the assets provided by the companies that don't approve of their assets being used and their likenesses being used with companies that their purpose goes against the terms of service.
Yeah.
And they have Blizzard absolutely has the right to do that. You can't have, YouPorn, Hearthstone Invitational. You can't have the Ku Klux Klan World of Warcraft Arena,
Yeah, exactly.
tournament. It's just not going to happen.
I'm sure there's a clause in there that's just something like we reserve the right to like restrict your access to display sponsorship or something like that. Like you can still play in the tournament, you just can't be called Team YouPorn, sort of thing. We're not going to kick you out. You deserve to be here, but you got to change your name, sort of thing. You can't wear this jersey.
Yeah.
That is,
and I was thinking from like the hosting a tournament, because like getting a team, like that's like a dead end completely. But even hosting a tournament, it's like you can't you wouldn't be able to use the assets without risking having basically people come at you, like these companies like Riot or Blizzard or anybody else saying, hey, you can't use that because we can't have our name associated with the porn industry directly like that. One of them might flex. You don't know. I mean, maybe Riot will be like, sure. They won't do it. But I mean, still, it's like, somebody might flex and do it. But I think it would be interesting because, I mean, I think more so for the entertainment value of it, but it's too soon, I think, for the porn industry to go that mainstream.
Yeah. Well, and like specifically talking about this site, like there's... in the adult industry, there are varying degrees of tastefulness, right?
Right.
Like, there will be pictures that's like, this is very artistic. There's nudity, but it's like, it's tasteful nudity and so on. It's all very, very respectful of the models involved and everything. That's sort of one side of the spectrum. On the other side of the spectrum, you have the more like, no, just gonna get your grind on, bruh. Like, just being straight up rude to the models, and like that's sort of the. I don't know if the models care about it or not, or if that's part of what gets them in. I don't pretend to understand how other people think. I barely understand how I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you weren't there at shooting either, so.
What?
You weren't there at the shooting either, so.
Yeah.
Like, while they're shooting, so you don't know.
Not that one anyway, but but no, like. YouPorn definitely falls into the second spectrum, I would say. Like, you can look at their Twitter account for all of about 3 seconds, and it's like, they literally just tweeted, I want to touch your butt.
Yep.
What?
Yeah, and it's it's like funny, when we were talking about this, I was all like, oh man, that'd be hilarious. Let's go to twitter.com/YouPorn. I pulled it up, and it's like immediate, there's just porn immediately in your face. And I as a photographer, like I follow a lot of models, so if I go to their Twitter account, I'm going to see nude pictures, right? But I didn't expect it for some reason. I don't know why. Like, it was just one of the things. I went to their Twitter page, and I was all like, wow, I didn't expect to see actual intercourse. like people fucking. I didn't expect to see that, when I went to this page, and it just, there it is. Okay, yeah. And then it kind of like,
it's the sort of thing you just don't think is going to show up on Twitter.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was because I was thinking, YouPorn, that'd be great. They could totally do it. And then I went to the Twitter page, and it was immediate. It was just like, no, it will not happen.
Yeah,
it just went from one to another, just like that.
Yeah, like I could see. Honestly, I think if something like this is going to happen, like I could see Playboy or somebody fielding a or Penthouse or something. Like sponsoring, not necessarily forming, but like being a patch on some other team's arm or something like that. That I could see potentially happening, because those are I think fall more towards the like, we're trying to be tasteful and respectful side of things, whereas for some of them, like, the absence of respect is actually like their draw. So yeah, I don't know. But I don't think we'll be seeing Samsung versus YouPorn anytime soon.
Samsung blue versus YouPorn white. Hey. Yeah, that's not happening.
All right.
Yep.
I have Chinese food getting cold.
And I don't know. I need to post this. There you go.
That's true. Yeah.
Today, preferably.
Yeah, that'd be good.
All right. Well, you want to talk about Destiny for a bit?
No. I wanna eat my Chinese food. It's over there. I'm so hungry.
What are you eating? What is it?
I don't even know.
You don't know? What's it smell like? Tell me what it smells like.
Smells like cold Chinese food.
What kind?
The Chinese kind?
Where's it from?
A Chinese restaurant?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it I mean it smells good though, right? Like this like when you take a deep breath or you're like, "Oh man, that smells delicious."
It smells like it's probably cold now and I'm going to have to heat it up.
Okay. Well, I guess that kind of kills it then.
Yeah.
We can keep going.
No. I'm done. That's it. No, I'm done.
Fine.
Fine.